Citroen C1 city car shares its design, but not always its tight pricing, with Toyota Aygo and Peugeot 107 design stablemates that roll down the same production lines. It's a clever design that maximises space and offers the advantage of a 5-door option over Citroen's similarly priced C2. If, understandably, you were under the impression that Citroen's sub-super mini-size C2 was the French maker's offering in the city car sector, you'd be wrong. That's occupied by this car, the C1. Now, it's cheaper than a C2 and offers the option of 5 as well as 3 doors. Leaving aside the headache that must cause Citroen dealers on the sales floor, there's also the issue of how this car can differentiate itself from other rebadged versions of the same design on sale in Toyota and Peugeot dealerships. Citroen being Citroen, they've solved that problem simply by offering better value, as you'll find if you compare prices. That leaves only the C2 overlap, addressed by equipping that car with a wider range of engines. Now that does mean that C1 buyers only get a single choice of petrol and a single choice of diesel power, but even that's more than Toyota or Peugeot dealerships will offer you in their city car alternatives. Now they both reckon that there's no market in the city car sector for diesel power. Citroen beg to differ. C1 buyers get a choice of either a 68 brake horsepower 1 litre I petrol engine or a 54 brake horsepower HDI diesel. And you get a 5-speed manual gearbox, of course, but a refreshing lack of the kind of gimmickry and nonsense that many small car manufacturers are using these days to try and differentiate their compact car products. Instead, you get a car that's small, manoeuvrable, easy to see out of and very simple to operate. It's almost comical how little car there is behind the rear seats, and when reversing into a multi-storey car park bay, it's worth remembering that you can leave yourself a little more breathing room than you'd expect. Quite what a tailgating articulated truck would look like to a rear seat passenger is the flip side of that statistic. Both engines have something to be said for them, but the petrol engine that most choose feels more willing and revvy and perhaps more suited to the C1's up and atom personality. The steering takes a little bit of getting used to, but it's really easy to twirl the car into the tightest parking space with it. Unlike a number of its city car rivals, the C1 offers a choice of 5 as well as 3 doors, and an unthreatening and fun appearance. You've got a front end that looks as if it's either grinning or grimacing, depending on which angle you view it from. A rounded bonnet, wide wraparound bumpers, and these bulbous headlamp clusters. It's not a look that lends itself to the eventual appearance of a GTI version, but it's a look that's probably perfect for its target market. The rear end is nicely finished with big crystal and anthracite rear light clusters and a deep underbody assembly. You've got this glass tailgate here which looks nice, but doesn't reach down to bumper level, so it could be a bit of a pain if you're constantly trying to load in heavy shopping over it. The wheel arches are surprisingly beefy, and in the 3-door version they're sculpted a little bit further forward. Now I've got the 5-door here, and in a really neat piece of packaging, the doors shut almost flush to the rear light clusters. Every inch of space is used on the design. Citroen have been regaining their reputation for bold and exciting interiors of late, and the C1 continues that trend. There's plenty of headroom here, even for someone over 6 foot tall. I reckon would be comfortable in this car. And the huge glass area gives a big airy feel to the cabin. The rear of the 3-door car is really quite claustrophobic and is only really suitable for kids or short journeys. But this 5-door version has knee room that really isn't too bad, and it helps that the belt line of the car is a little bit lower, so you don't feel so hemmed in when you shut the doors. Boot space is the same whether you choose the 3 or the 5-door. 139 litres with all the seats in place, or 751 litres if you fold the rear seats down. As we all know, list prices, in this case in the £7,000 to £9,000 bracket common to this class of car, are only the starting point for negotiation. But bear in mind that in a car this expensive, dealers will have less to play with in terms of discounts. Allow £500 more if you want 5 doors rather than 3. Now some buyers may have reservations about the safety of such a minute car. Nudge up against a huge 4x4 in one of these and it's easy to feel a bit overshadowed, a bit worried. But in actual fact, this C1 is likely to have better safety systems than many a huge SUV. A specially developed body structure incorporates crumple zones and impact absorbers front and rear. And you've also got Isofix child safety anchors, you've got reinforced doors and up to 6 airbags. What's more, it's well equipped to avoid a fender bender in the first instance. You get anti-lock brakes with electronic brake force distribution and cornering stability control. This car's also been designed to limit the consequences of a pedestrian impact. Wise indeed for a model that will spend much of its time in a congested urban environment. The front end features no sharp edges and you've got those impact absorbers up front to limit leg injuries. There's also plenty of space between the impact absorbing front bumper and the top of the engine so that the shock is dissipated before it comes into contact with anything hard. Where the C1 scores an almost unbeatable mark is in the field of cost of ownership. At 22 pence per mile over a typical 3-year ownership period for the entry-level 1 litre model, this Citroen is one of the cheapest cars it's possible to run. Carbon dioxide emissions are class-leading as well at just 109 grams per kilometre of CO2, whether you choose the petrol or the diesel. Fuel economy is also standout, the petrol model achieving 61.4 miles to the gallon on the combined cycle and the diesel 68.9 miles to the gallon. Now, given that the diesel cost £1,000 more up front and that most city cars don't cover excessive mileages, the diesel, not surprisingly, works out more expensive to run overall. No prizes then for guessing where the smart money goes. Mind you, where the diesel does claw back some operating cost is rather surprisingly in the area of servicing charges. It also comes under the same cheap insurance group 1. So you won't be paying over the odds for the diesel when you go to your broker. If you like a homely feel to your city car, then you'll probably like this one. It's one of the best buys in the city car sector, developed with the kind of design budget that pretty much guarantees a good result. Okay, it might not be as spacious and as versatile as, say, a Fiat Panda, but it's better built. And when it comes to hammering down running costs, this is extremely tough to beat. What's more, low running costs don't come at the expense of everything else. The C1's a fun car to drive with a cheeky personality, and the no-nonsense approach to build quality means that there's not a lot to go wrong. What's more, there's no safer car in the class, so if the price is right, you can understand its appeal.